Irashimase! Welcome, welcome,
Nani?
welcome. This is Doc, aka The Great Bukaki, aka Masa My Hero Chonies, aka Toshiaki Barada, aka Swagsuke Nakamura Yao, aka your host, and it's the Wrestling Observer newsletter Hall of Fame season, and we got with me today. You guys are all following through this. We're in this part. We got here Mr. JML of the WONHOF tracker account on X, on Blue Sky, and you might see him on Threads. Welcome, man.
Guys having me.
Y desde el oriente, aquí nosotros, que nos dio un camión y acabamos de Isekai y por alguna razón estamos discutiendo sobre el Salón de la Fama. So basically I'm saying that we got hit by Truck-kun and now we're discussing the Hall of Fame. Okay.
Yeah, we're in another world, man. It's Japan. It's a land of contrast, as Bart Simpson would say. But like, it's probably this wasn't that hard of deciding who to go with, but you guys will hear it in the rest of this episode. We do a pretty thorough examination of everybody on this. We got really big names on this list. You talking about like Seki Sakaguchi and Antonio Inoki. You're talking about Tiger Jeet Singh. You're talking about the Phoenix himself, Hayabusa, and like we're talking like names and names and names. And I think when it comes to press and when it comes to the country of Japan, Japan also has a long history when it comes to pro wrestling. It goes back to like World War II, even back before then. But like World War II, we had like the German, we had two Canadian brothers play Americans as the first big heels to face off with Ricky Dozan and all that stuff. So it's just when you think of Japan, it goes back so long ago, almost like we're talking like 80 years or more, and it's honestly I respect so many of the guys in here because we have Toshiaki Fujiwara, Yoshiaki Fujiwara. He was one of the guys who created that shuto style that we see nowadays from guys who don't know wristwatch from a wrist lock, and it's just we go through this list and we give people their flowers, and somebody here gives somebody's flowers that you don't expect, but it is what it is. And we're coming at this like some swami guy attacking Antonio Inoki at the grocery store. And I just want to say like thank you both for doing this with me.
Doc, spoilers. I'm gonna come after you with my sword. Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh wow. Gosh, don't blow fire at me, man. I do.
There you go.
I do want to say like I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did. And please remember, these are our opinions. These are not like. I mean, you should trust our opinions. We're three very smart men, but I I'm not saying believe all men, but if you were going to take into consideration your votes in this process, I think this is a good series to listen to because you're not going to get this kind of coverage anywhere else. You're not going to get this kind of depth of care for all these different ballots and all these different sections anywhere else except here. And also because JML has been doing this for years, and Numbers has been he's been talking about this for years, and so have I. And I just want to say like this is a place where you come and you're not gonna get anybody who fixed the funk, anybody who like kind of skips over, because these are wrestlers who paved the way for what we have today in Japan. And like all I gotta say is arigato gozaim And like that's all I gotta say to JML and Numbers for joining us. But enjoy the show. Get at us. You got the Numbers and JML's social. So if you want to come for somebody, you can come for them. I mean, and you also have my
Hey,
email. My email, Dr. Lariat, drlariat at gmail.com. So, if you have anything to say, go ahead and hit any of us up. But please, enjoy the show.
Mitko, Mitko.
We're back, ladies and
y
gentlemen.
ahora, y ahora desde el oriente vamos a hablar de la región de Japón. We're gonna talk about Japan, people. Japan or Nippon, Nipponici. We're gonna talk about Japan. I mean, using some like it's like Spanish and Japanese. Hey, and so this is an interesting region in the sense that like it's been cleared, so it's a slightly different problem from like other regions where like historical is like just you're blocking. Whereas in Japan, we're getting to the point where like you might be like, hey, maybe I don't need to use 3 votes. Japan has 3 votes, and it's a little bit like a conveyor belt in a way if you start looking at it in the sense of like whoever was people move up, people get in, and the next person kind of gets in. And again, it's a very vibrant territory, very important territory. So like it is justified to have a lot of people. But we'll have a conversation around like the candidates here. Less candidates, 3 votes. And let's kick it off with one of our rookies, Masaki Mochizuki, who, man, I love Masaki Mochizuki. I've gotten way into Dragon Raid recently, and he is still so good 30 years in. If you haven't seen him, like he is having incredible matches still to this day.
So good.
Um,
Beating
so
his
good.
son
He
up
is
like a solace dad's imagining kicking
Mochi,
kicking the ass of
yeah,
our
Mochi
son.
Jr. Yeah, he is so good. He is a guy who's been around forever, been one of the top workers in the world forever. Drawing isn't that great. I mean, drawing's fine, but it's not like any like great shakes. I think the key to the any Mochi case is how influential is he in the new generation for Dragon Gate? And to explain a little bit, like so, there's a point when the guys came back from excursion. They started delaying. They put him. They weren't they were kind of struggling. Shun and the other guys were kind of struggling, and they put him as part of the Mochi dojo. Like they put him with Mochi, and like with that, working with him on the road is how these guys became like the guys that they are. Like Shun is like I would argue Shun is probably like the best guy in Japan right now. Um, and we like I don't see a clear answer to how influential he is because he's not necessarily technically he's not the on the book trainer for the dojo, but he is a guy who they put with all the young guys to work with, and he's really influential, and he's also like a really good worker. He's to me, he's a guy who I definitely want on the ballot. I definitely want to get to know more about his case, but I would be a maybe on Mochizuki. I'm not a no. I would be a maybe. Maybe if I have a vote, I could talk me into it. The right day, you could talk me into Mochizuki, right? I'm big. I love Mochi. Big fan. He can't quite pull the trigger. I'm gonna go like with maybe with him.
The first time I saw Mochi was the first time I saw him was Super J Cup '94. He's wearing the karate gi. He does all this springboard kicking stuff.
Yeah.
He and like when I look at his case, I look at a guy like Tomohiro Ishii or even Shingo Takagi, right? As far as like having that longevity. For Takagi, also like I kind of look at also his time on top in Dragon Gate, as far as an influential worker, and there was a time like where he was, to me, he was the best wrestler on earth. And Mochi also like kind of fits that bill of having that long time on top of Dragon Gate as like the top heel, and he's probably like on like my top 10 workers of all time, and especially he is on my top 5 workers over 50 of all time. And
Yeah, he's so good. Yes.
it's kind of insane how good he is still. And I'm sounding like a mark because I am a mark, so I'm gonna I say yes for him because of his longevity on top.
Oh,
Because I know
so
Dragon Gate is
you're pulling the trigger on it. Like you're a Dragon Gate matters voter. No, I respect it. I respect it.
yeah. Because I
Love it.
when SEMA went in last year, I was so happy for that news because sorry, when I talk Dragon Gate, right? I talk about going back and watching since 90 98 when that first Dragon Tape comp came out. Shout out to you trade traders out there. You could see it on YouTube now. It's all in Spanish, but that doesn't have anything to do with Mochizuki. But Mochizuki, he came from war. He also it's him and Ultimo who were the juniors for war, and he's just he's so great now, and he's been great for so long. And if we're talking about work in the ring, I know a lot of people don't watch him or haven't really watched him over the years, but this guy is phenomenal. If you give Ishii that kind of gold standard of work, this guy, my opinion, blows Ishii away because he doesn't use the formula the way Ishii does nowadays, and it's just I'm so big of a Mochi supporter that when he got on the ballot, I was like, oh, that's a guy for me,
So
and that's what I have to say.
I'm gonna kind of reverse. I'm gonna reverse field a little bit. When Ishii got in, I said he was the worst person who's ever gotten in the hall. And I've actually kind of reverse course a little bit on Ishii, where I think his a lot of the stuff was weak relative to other candidates I've reviewed, but there is a very noticeable influence from Ishii's style and his match layout across the world. There's a layout that he does, and you can picture in your head. Think about when I say the Ishii match, right, or the Ishii stretch in a match at the end of the match. That is something that is copied and used and is become part of the dialect of wrestling, right? So when I said the dialect, it's kind of the things that the wrestlers pull and use that are common. I've talked about this, the common language of wrestling. You see this, and it has an emotional weight because you've seen it before, and it's people doing the Eddie spot and what it's something that is part of that, or somebody doing a figure four spot, right? You're familiar with the figure four spot from Flair, right? There's this layout that you see and and I think Ishii has that. To his credit, he has these moves and these signatures that come in. I don't know if again, that's why my question with Mochi is going to come around. Where I would be on Mochi is prove to me or get me more information on his legacy in terms of training and style influence. Right? If somebody wants to make the case for Mochi, that's where you get me, right? Because I don't think the drawing's there, but you can talk me into. I think the work's definitely there, but you got to talk me into something else. So I can support him ahead of does that make sense? I think you're a yes. I'd be like I'm a no. I'm a maybe, but you can convince me, right? Is where I am with Mochi. Right? You can talk me into Mochi.
Yeah, because we're in I know the group just recently broke up. That this was M3K I think almost the fourth or fifth version of his Mochizuki-gun, but it's just there's guys he worked with that noticeably improved after they got with him and worked under him, worked against him, did the tags with him.
That's what I want to know. Is he the guy? Is he the guy doing the finishing up and putting the polish on these Dragon Gate guys? Because if that's the case, then it's a different sort of I know what you. Yes, I know it, and I think it, but I can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? I need first-hand sources telling me that yes, Mochi is the guy who is responsible for Shun and getting these guys. You know what I'm saying? If that is the case, then it's we'll talk about it a little further. Volador Jr., right? I know Volador is a guy who is everybody swears he's the guy who just everyone respects and everyone looks up to and everyone goes to for training. You know what I mean? And I would need somebody to make a similar kind of prove argument for Mochi, right?
Yeah,
All right, we got passion in the weeds for Dragon Gate, JML. What do you think?
The thing is, for me personally, I've fallen off lately in terms of watching Dragon Gate. But when I did watch, I've watched consistently as late as a couple of years ago. But yeah, Mochizuki, no doubt about it, great in-ring worker, I'd say one of the greatest in-ring workers of all time. Probably in the last 20 years, he's up
Yeah.
there.
There's a
But
the match I have, which is him and Shingo, Gate of Destiny.
absolutely,
Incredible.
He's
Incredible.
but and again, this is not like if we're talking about a guy like has he been a guy who's been like top 20 or like top 10 worker in the world for a very long time? The answer is yes, definitely. Now I think the argument with him is always going to be like, where's the rest of the meat for the case for me?
exactly.
Right? And that's why I'm like I can't pull the trigger on Mochi. I'm like, there's days where you could talk me into it, but like right now I'm like I can't pull the trigger on it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of as a draw, in terms of the scale of Dragon Gate, he wasn't that. So, it's really hard.
Ask me later because I might have the vote left over. We'll see. Okay.
Yeah, my first instinct for me personally, if I had a ballot, would say no, even though I really like Mochizuki.
You would vote no and hate yourself for voting no, which is like where I'm at with Mochi. I'm like, oh, he's so beautiful, he's so cool. But yeah, no, I can't pull the trigger for him. I can't pull the trigger on him yet, right? But again, it's one of those things like it's like you were talking about Shima earlier, Doc, and like it's like Shima, like I eventually talked myself into like, no, Shima needs to be in, right? Because I watched enough matches, I saw a lot, and I read enough, and I was like, no. Enough time has go by that I have to go like, yes, no, Shima needs to be in, and I'm not quite there with Mochi. Next one is Io Sky or Io Shirai, right? I'm a no on her. I'm a clean no on her, and I mean I could eventually be talked into her, but I don't. I feel like yes, she was the best worker. Probably she was the best worker in Stardom. But she was also the best worker in Stardom in kind of like a down period, and given where Stardom has gone after she left, and given the work she puts in W, which is fine, but it's not great, I'm like, he's fine, but she's not someone to me who I go like, yes, if she's not in the hall, I'm not thinking women are underrepresented in the hall at all. Like, oh, there are women in Joshi right now who are drawing at like an insane level, right? Who are like building this promotion, the hottest promotion in the world, and doing incredible work. And she's off in WWE, kind of doing off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be polite about it. And again, I think and we'll mention it later because I'm going to use her as a point of comparison, but she's not someone who, when she's working with a terrible worker, makes them better, right?
I'd say
It depends.
I disagree on that.
No.
kinda-
Like, look, I'm not going to concede on this because like she does the thing with the Joshis. Like when I see her working with a bad worker in WWE, she does the thing where she slows it down to 25% speed and works a safe match, which is fine. But she's not. She's like incredibly technical. Like she's incredible technician. But her work isn't something where like she goes like, I'm gonna work Carmella or something, and I'm gonna figure out a way to make this person like cover up all her flaws and make her look good. She works a very basic layout, like she was working with a trainee. And a lot of the Joshis do this, right, across the board. And for me, if I'm gonna say you're the best worker, one of the best workers in the world, we're going to talk about one of the best workers in the world, in my opinion, later. I'm going to go like, this person, when you put her in with anybody, just figures out a way to make this person a star, even if the person is complete dog shit, right? And I think that's kind of the key. If you're selling EO, right, you have to sell me on her being like this exceptional worker that makes everyone around her better, not just a great technician in a period that was like that, like was kind of like taking it off a little bit in like WWE. So like it's a nice case, but it isn't a great one to me. So I'm a no. But like I'll leave it up to other people to kind of like have the rest of the conversation.
Okay, the thing is with Io Shirai, because I had to track, because for people that don't know, I used to write for a website called Wrestling with Words, and
Mhm.
I did a lot of the Stardom reviews, and during that time, Io was the top wrestler
Mhm.
there. So I've seen my fair share of Io from that era. Her early stuff when she was teaming with her sister Mio. Up until now, like I've seen a bunch of stuff where she carried people. I don't want to say she elevated people, but she carried people. I mean, there's the Yoko Bito match where Yoko Bito she came off winning the 5-star Grand Prix, ironically against Tessa Blanchard in the finals, but we won't talk about that. But um, ironically, she got the title shot. Yoko Bito got the title shot against Io Shirai, and Io was coming out was in the midst of her second longest run as World of Stardom champion, and she put on a masterclass of just carrying a person because Yoko Bito, she was coming back from retirement. So basically, this was her first year coming back, and she did a great job. I've seen her do. There's a match, um, say with Azuki. I don't know the exact year, but um, she basically helped her. I don't want to say sleepwalk through the match, but it was basically a 3-star match when it shouldn't have been. And this was early in Hazuki's career. Um,
The
if you
broom
point to the
match.
matches if you point to the matches she had with Momo Watanabe that put Momo on the map. And this is young Momo that was, I'd say, 18, 19 years old. Like she did that, and if you even point to the WWE matches, I remember a match in NXT where I think she dropped the belt to Raquel Gonzalez or Raquel Rodriguez, and it was a one. Raquel needed a lot of help that night, and Io did it in spades. I mean, she's done a lot of quote unquote carry jobs throughout her career, and she has been one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet. Now, in terms of putting together a Hall of Fame case, I think it's going to be interesting because as the years go by, if she doesn't get less than 10%, which I don't think that she will, um, as the years go by, you might have to move her to modern US because she's worked
Yeah.
in WWE
And
so
she
much.
has zero shot in modern US. She ain't
Yeah.
getting anywhere in modern US.
Yeah.
Modern is a death. Like if Sami Zayn can't stick, right?
Ooh,
And if Sami Zayn can't stick, then no,
that
like
hurts so
you have
bad.
no shot.
Hmm.
It's a hard lift to get over. Would you be a yes on her right now, or maybe?
I would be so you have 3
Ooh, I heard it.
votes.
I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. Okay, let me put it
I
this.
know.
Let me put it this. Let me put it this way. You only got one vote. And you got to give it to Mochi or Io. Who do you give it to?
Ooh.
I would give it to
This
Mochi.
is so painful.
And I would
Yeah.
like. Here's the thing. I don't. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I also like. I consider these like regions of wrestling. Right? I say, are women wrestlers from Japan underrepresented in the Hall of Fame? No. Hell no. No. Are the best women workers like the best Joshi in the Hall? Yes. Like the legendary Joshis are in. So if you want to get in as a Joshi, right? Then goddamn it, you have to have a case, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not the Hall of very good. Like like if it's a thing where like it's underrepresented, it's a different story. But like in this case, I'm like no, right? And I don't think her. Again, I'm comparing it. I'm being fair. I'm comparing it to Mochi, right? I'm saying like, does he have? Like, actually, I don't think she has a better drawing record as comparable. Like, does she have a better work
No.
record? No.
No.
Does she have a better influence case? No. I mean, like you still have to prove more on me on that. So I'd say her case is weaker than Mochi's to me, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not saying it's a bad case. She
she
should be on the ballot, right? But
I know.
to me, she's not there. I'd be no, right? But I get where you're kind of like where you're coming from.
yeah. I mean, gun to my head, I would say no, just because like you look at Kyoko Inoue, who fell off the ballot. She has a better drawing record and is probably at the same level of worker as Io is. I prefer Io more than Kyoko, but I both of them are two great workers. And the thing with Io, you might I mean, I know she was helping training right after the whole thing with Yoshiko and then Nai Takahashi leaving Stardom. She basically took over training, and what you have is she trained. I mean, a lot of the people now in Stardom, like Momo, Hazuki, um, Azumi, um, those are EO's products. And if they have a longer career and it proves to be very fruitful for the three of them, just the three of them, right there, along with the other. I mean, Tony. You could say Tony Storm when Tony Storm got in. I mean, EO was the trainer, and Tony Storm was in there, and look where she is now. Piper Niven when she was Viper. There's other foreigners that come in. Yes, EO is the main trainer, and you could point to that and say it's influence, but I have to go with the no on a no vote. If I had a bet.
I think both for Mochi and for EO, I want somebody like to write that training case and write that influence case for me. It's an easier no for me on EO than it is for Mochi because my standard for Joshi in Japan is incredibly high. I'm like Kama Toyota. I love Kama Toyota. She's never been on the ballot, right? I don't think she's ever been on the ballot, and I love her.
She hasn't.
Her matches live in my brain, right?
Magumi
Indelible
Kudo.
images.
Oh my god!
There are people who are
Magumi
like not of the. Yeah, it's so. I mean, again, my standard is so high on this that I'm like, and this isn't a knock on her. I'm saying like, I would be like, okay, no, you have to prove. I need more. I need more on this case. I need more meat. Doc, are you a yes or no on EO?
I'm gonna say this first. Shout out to you, Al. Shout out to Henny Omega. I know that she's your princess. She's your favorite, but I gotta say no on her. That's all I gotta say. To my virtual
I get
pros.
it, guys. I get it, but like, I can't do it. I think next one's gonna be easy. Hayabusa, 53% last year. I'd be a hell yes on him. I'm like yes, Hayabusa, influential, great worker. I mean, obviously we know the tragedy, but I think in terms of influence, here's a guy who's like an easy kind of like, okay, yeah. I mean, I can point to all these things, and I mean, he does have he has a drawing case too. So I would say like
domes.
again. Yeah, I mean, like I would say he's an easy yes for me. And I think he might be the safest bet to get on the ballot. He got 53 last year, and the way Japan works, good chance he's going to pick up a bunch of votes and he's going to get in. I would say he's easy, and there's a lot of like love for him, and kind of a push for him to get in too.
Like the case, I know people are going to compare Hayabusa and Sabu. Hayabusa wears the pants because of Sabu. But like when you look at the growth of the style, right? The style I'm talking about, Lucha Resu, and we're gonna get to that more on another candidate. But this guy, another one of the guys that New Japan said no to, so he went to Mexico, got trained in that style, trained under Rey Mysterio Senior. So him and Psychosis and Rey Mysterio all have that same basis of being trained by Rey Mysterio Sr. And then you have like the drawing case with FMW. You kind of have the influential case, like, you know, we have guys like Bandito wearing his mask, full out.
And Will Ospreay
wearing his mask. We have the, you know, Phoenix Splash. How many people do the Phoenix Splash? How many people do that Swanton, do the Senton Atomico into the Lion Salt? How many people are doing that nowadays? I
feel like I should almost disqualify myself because I'm such an FMW freak. Because FMW is like a promotion that's like it's very linked to Puerto Rico. It's very linked to Victor Quiñones. It's Puerto Rican style in Japan, and it's the kind of match that they used to bring. Like the Japan would bring those matches over to Puerto Rico. So like this is my shit. And I love it, and he is one of the key figures into getting that style, which is my favorite style of wrestling, to be something that's like everywhere. I can get matches that like remind me like on TV now. I can get like, you know, I can get Swerve and Hangman beating the crap out of each other in Texas Death Match on TV, and you know, the FMW guys, and Hayabusa are keys to a lot of that style. And then like having these guys work this mixed style with like the more like the brutal elements. It's like it's to me, it's something that I appreciate as a wrestling fan. So to
Yeah.
me, he's like he ticks every box. Like I'm an easy yes on Hayabusa, right?
Have
I
you
don't have
guys
to think about it
both
too much.
have you guys both played WCW NWO World Tour or Virtual Pro
Versus the
Wrestling
World,
64?
you mean?
Yeah, versus the world. No, well, versus the world and versus NWO World Tour and also Virtual Pro 64.
Yes, personally, yes.
World
The
Tour?
tour, World Tour, right? World Tour, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
I know that.
he's Hannibal in there, right?
Yeah.
And like, there's this like, you see him instantly. You see the mask. You see like the cool ninja pose, all that stuff, and like, it's just so starkly. He stands out so much, right? He's iconic. Even like the match in he has so many like matches you can go to. Akiyama and
We're gonna
yeah, but
we're gonna talk about
I'm
we're gonna talk
I'm gonna
about
say a yes on him, man. How many
talk a
votes do
little
I
bit,
get in
but,
this?
like,
3
the-
votes.
you had 3 votes, yes.
Okay, so that's 2 down. Oh shit.
Well, I mean, I think.
Well, I
Hayabusa,
already
like,
said
the
yes, so
easiest-
it's too late. It's too late.
I mean, what do you think, JML?
I'm right now maybe, but leaning towards yes. I mean, just because of the scarcity, you only have 3 votes. So, but honestly, like Hayabusa is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I think I have a similar like a lot of people if a lot of people my age, if you're like in your mid 30s or late 30s, you always saw Hayabusa in the tape trading world, and you just were amazed by him, and he's become very influential, and it's so weird because when you talk to other people, it's basically the same thing. It's just like, who was this guy? I had to watch more of him, and it was just, you're hypnotized by him.
Yeah.
It's funny that this ballot has probably the 3 guys that sold the most tapes outside of arenas. It's got Hayabusa, it's got Sabu, and it's got Samoa Joe. I would argue that those are the 3 people who sold the most tapes, and you can tell because like they always get a pop, everywhere because like people like the fans were buying the tapes outside. It's like it was funny. Like I remember Joe showing up in Arena Mexico, and like everyone was like shocked that he's getting these pops. I'm like, no, people were buying his tapes outside, right? So everyone in the arena who's there for that AEW show was like knew the fuck they everybody there probably saw Necro Joe, right, and like a bunch of other like Joe matches. Same thing with Sabu, same thing with Hayabusa. And I was gonna mention like he is kind of the inheritor of that Lucharesu kind of deal, right? Because like people think of Lucha as the high flyer stuff, but Lucha is very brutal, right? Lucha can also be very bloody and brutal and kind of like tear the mask off, bleed, and that kind of thing. And he's kind of that follower to, we'll talk about Hamada later, right? But he's kind of that like figure, right? Where I think Bandito's kind of like working in that style where like it's the flyer brawler kind of deal, which at the top end, I'm thinking of other guys like Solitario, like guys who kind of like that top tier baby face, which is, and actually Hangman is a little bit like that. Hangman's got that, like, he's a flyer, but he's also a brawler. He does like, it's that, there's a prototype, right, of that kind of figure, and I think that like it's a really important thing. I want to move on, so we're gonna like move through Japan. So Toyota and Yamada, I'm gonna let you go. I'm a no. I'm a no. Respect them. I don't know that it's wide enough, and I don't know that I have enough votes for them. I understand why they're there. They got 43 last year, but I wouldn't be a yes on them.
Another bulldog situation
I
for
would-
me, man. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna be the only one here that says yes.
I get it, though.
Yeah, and for me, it's just that they are part of probably the 3 best matches of all time, and it's extremely critical to the boom of the All Japan Women in the early 90s. That boom from 90, because the match with Dynamite and Miyazaki is from 90, and that's from November 92 with that match, and then that propels, because without that match, you don't get the incredible run that All Japan Women has up until '94. You don't have that, and it even extends to '96.
It's the match of the year 1993, and probably historically one of the more important matches because I think it's the first women's matches. It's the match of the year, right? Am I wrong? I think it's the first time the
think
women
so.
won. Yes.
That's why
So
this hurts
everyone
so
in
much,
1990
man. This hurts.
here's the thing. Here's the thing with this, and I'll be clear. I think I wouldn't vote for Manami Toyota and Toyoshi Yamada this year, but I fully would expect to have a vote for them next year, right? I this is kind of like we were talking about like Bulldog and Dynamite and saying like, oh no, this is for like this is the case where I'm like looking at this tag team and going like, this is how you do it because like Toyota's in, right? And I'm like I'm voting for like them as a tag, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah. I get it. And this is a case that I respect and I agree with. I just can't do it this year, right? I'd be like, and it hurts because again, I think it's a very important and influential tag team. It's one of the more important matches of all time in that, and they're both also like incredible workers. I don't think they're going to fall off. So strategically, this is again, I'm being strategic. I would not vote for like if in my mythical ballot, I'd be strategic and not vote for them because I think that I need to vote for someone else, right? Before them, but it doesn't mean I don't think they're like relevant candidates. I think we went 001. Okay, Yoshihiko Fujiwara. I'm a yes on Fujiwara, by the way. I think again, I think brawlers and bleeders and like the kind of worker that he is are underrepresented on the ballot. So it's very close, but he would be my third vote essentially in this category.
So Toro knows. I used to do a lot of rolling. I used to do submission grappling, as Master Josh would call it, and like Fujiwara was sort of like Fujiwara, Maeda, those guys, Sayama. They created the the Shudo style of pro wrestling.
Actually, I want to mention something. One thing that's really interesting is, who I was watching Fujiwara for this, and who reminds me of Fujiwara, who kind of like when I look at him now after seeing like, oh, I see it now. Zack Sabre. That's kind of the style, and like because he's sitting in that spot and he's doing the grappling stuff and kind of even the presentation. I think Fujiwara would wear I've seen him wear the orange too, the whole kind of like setup a little bit and kind of the attitude in ring. It's kind of like really interesting to see that and understand and go like, oh wow, okay. So it's that. There's other guys like Suzuki's like that too, but I think Fujiwara's style and that I talked about tropes and kind of like the way you work. His style and the way he works is an important archetype for wrestling. If that makes sense.
He how can I explain
Character.
it? Okay, he is sadistic. When you watch like Fujiwara in the 80s, even up to the 90s when he's like becoming that old man, but in the 80s, like he was sadistic, where guys like Inoki, guys like Billy Robinson, guys like Nick Bockwinkel, they were finessing with the technical wrestling, with the submissions, with the ground holds.
Who takes a lot
was relishing. Oh, who?
Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah, because like this man, right? He'd headbutt a guy's smile, slap him, and then lock him into like whatever ankle hold.
Yeah.
And like he's like there's this joy like, and I know like you said it earlier, like Minoru Suzuki, another one of his students, like, and Masakatsu Funaki, also one of my favorite guys. This is my shit, man. I love UWFI.
Brian, you know who else? Brian Danielson.
Brian
takes a lot
Danielson.
from him too.
Yeah.
Right? That's that. Yeah.
Takes
I mean,
the song,
like that when you start thinking
his
about
theme song, Flight of the Valkyries. That is what Fujiwara would use for his entrance theme.
Yeah, so we're going like, who are the people who are being influenced stylistically? We're talking about some of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like we're going like, well, if that's the case, and again, throw everything else in, you're like, yeah.
Right. There's this fantastic YouTuber. His name is Pearl Wave. I'm not sure you guys ever watch it, but he did like a video on like UWFI using like clips from like the training videos because they used to put the training videos on, and like, you know, Fujiwara is just like you see him stretching guys and it's him and Suzuki like showing like, oh, this is the technique you can use to torture, or this is like how you would get into the Fujiwara. Here's how you would reverse the Fujiwara. Here's the German suplex. Here is why the German suplex. And like him, like Fujiwara just has this sadism to him. And now that you say Brian's my all-time favorite wrestler. I need to say like Brian is my favorite wrestler.
I need to ask. I would need to like ask him because he looked like Fujiwara, like when he was doing like the MMA tights and the short hair and like the whole work. And I'm thinking, dude, was Brian purposely kind of like aping his style, like his whole kind of like deal is very like the whole kind of like, oh, so 5 and kind of the like that's interesting because, you know, we obviously know like the Blue Panther and some of the other influences of the Java, but like now that I look at it stylistically and thinking about it in my head, I'm like, man,
he's
like
taken
like,
and then you throw in Flood of the Valkyries also, which is Fujiwara's theme. And like you're like, so the whole time he's been doing a Fujiwara tribute in WWE and into AEW. You know how insane that is?
It's not the only thing, but like if you start thinking about it a little bit, like the presentation, how he works and how he did things, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes some sense, right? It's like it's you know it's the submission guy, right? And how do you kind of like play that? And it's like right up his alley. He's been kind of like telling us. I'd love to ask him. Be like, hey man, it's like, is this your guy? Is this what you're going for? But so I think essentially like the three pillars, like drawing. He hits on all 3 for me, right? So I'd be like, and again, influence and kind of like style is kind of like, you know, I'm gonna go yes. JML, what do you think?
I'm a maybe on Fujiwara, just because the thing about it is, you know, pro wrestling Fujiwara Gumi, it failed, so that's like a negative demerit on him. Just because it, you know, when the second UWF splintered, it was like what rings, PWFG and then UWFI, and that's the one that really failed among the 3. And kind of hurts his case. I mean, the rest of it, I mean, the thing about Fujiwara, and then he's never really got in. And I think a lot of people have the same passion that want Fujiwara and have this massive passion for him because he was part of that group that studied studied from Inoki, like all those guys from the late 80s, like Maeda and Takada and Funaki and Suzuki, and even if you go down the line, even like a Sakuraba, even though he wasn't part of those guys, he was more UWFI. Like, when you think about it, it's like Fujiwara is the last to get in, and that's what, you know. I think it's a similar sentiment of what Ishii was in terms of the New Japan guys. He's the last of those guys to get in. I think that's what a lot of people look at with Fujiwara. He's the last of, you know, and maybe I have to write this out, but I feel like a lot of wrestlers when they define a specific era in a promotion, throughout the Hall of Fame, they'll get voted in bunches. You look at the Attitude Era with Rock, Austin, Triple H, Angle, Baker. They all got shepherded in at the same time. You see with the New Japan guys, the All Japan guys from the 90s, same thing. That's why a lot of people were pushing for Tawa. You know, and Fujiwara is the same thing in terms of those late 80s New Japan guys. You can even throw Liger in there in terms of the late 80s, and it looks like Fujiwara is the outlier. He's the last guy from the outside looking in. With Fujiwara, I personally like him. I know a lot of people don't. You know, it's a weird case for him, but I would tend to, for me, I tend to think maybe. It's just that there's certain demerits, like the fall of PWFG that really kind of bothers me, but He has a similar candidacy to Takayama. We're going to talk about later, but in later in his career, he was always brought in to help business. You know, but I don't know. It's just a weird case to me. I'm a maybe because there's certain things like he did help draw, but then later he didn't help draw. I'm still back and forth on Fujiwara.
Okay, no, I get it. I mean, like, this is a complicated case. Where are you at? Doc, you said maybe too, right?
Yeah, I'm at a maybe. It's so painful because the next guy is. We'll talk about it.
Takayama. We're going to talk about Takayama. And, God, there's a great article on Vyoto which says, like, I love Yoshiro Takayama, but he's not a Hall of Famer. And, man, I agree with it. Like, do yourself a favor. If you haven't watched it recently, go watch Takayama Fry. It is to quote Dave, like one of the great things in life. It's just so good, and he is a guy who has like all the elements, but he isn't at the level where I can say, "Oh, I'm going to vote for him." Maybe in a down year for Japan, I would, but I'm like, no. But again, like if you want to go find that match if you haven't seen it in a while, it is wild. And he has other things, but just like do yourself a favor, just go watch that, right? And there's a great thing I saw with like Don Fry, like Fry talking about it, and all in all, I think like he is. If that's the kind of thing that happened in a wrestling ring, I'd be a yes. But it's a thing that happens outside of it, so that's kind of like takes me out of qualifying him. Like it's a wrestling Hall of Fame. It's not an MMA Hall of Fame, so box him slightly. But this does again, he should be on the ballot. He has a valid career. I'm just not going to pull the trigger on him as a Hall of Famer in Japan. Doc?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead,
JML?
Doc.
Oh no, you can do it.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, with Takayama, like I mentioned before, like he was more. I view him more as a guy that was in when Japanese wrestling was trying to save themselves because of the explosion of mixed martial arts. He was always brought in to help business. I mean, and it varied no matter when he come in, but I remember the matches with Masao, and Masao always brought him in. Matches with Nagata, they brought him in against Nagata to help business in New Japan. New Japan brought him in against Nakamura a couple of times. Minoru Suzuki brought him into feud in All Japan. It's so many times that he was always brought in to help main event scene, whereas he wasn't really the anchor of it. But to me, I feel like that's a plus in my view. I know that the attendances vary when you go case by case, but I think it's a very positive case for Takayama in terms of Takayama being Takayama. I mean, if you look at his career as a totality, I mean, you date back to the UWF and the shoot stuff, but I always associated him as a guy who was tag team working in All Japan, undercard guy in All Japan, and then progressed into a really great freelancer in a landscape in Japan where they were just trying to save themselves because they saw how big mixed martial arts was, and for him to come in and almost every time give each promotion a boost, and was basically called his own shots basically, and helped the wrestling landscape. I don't want to say yes, but you know what? I'll pull the trigger and say yes on Takayama.
Okay, yes on Takayama. That's interesting. So you got Takayama, Toyota, and Yamada. I respect it. I like it. Doc's got Moshi and Hayabusa, and I've got Hayabusa and Fujiwara. And let's get weird now. We got.
I did want to say this about Takayama because I'm voting for him because we're talking about that. Yeah, I'm voting for Takayama. We're talking about his run, right? His big run, like in the 2000s, from when he won the Triple Crown, the GHC and the IWGP. Also because he was a big draw on TV, as you know, as you guys know, the whole variety show thing. We talked a little bit about it earlier about how Stardom is actually growing because of, you know, one of their big stars, their champion, is actually on the variety show circuit and bringing interest back into that company. Also, Takayama was all over those shows, but he was also in a couple movies. Calamari Wrestler, watched that. It was it was awesome. Also, Cromartie High School, and like he kind of has like sort of an enduring thing over there in, and he has the career, he has the matches for me personally, and that's why I'm voting for him. Because he, besides being popular within the wrestling thing, he also stood out like as a personality. And I wanted to say this too because he had two DLCs in Fire Pro Wrestling World. One came out like 10 years ago, about 7, 8 years ago, and the one just came out this year for Takayama Mania. And you know, it's kind of enduring to see like a DLC pack made 10 years after the game came out to kind of like honor this man. So I just want to say like he has sort of a cultural touchstone in Japan. For those years, he was kind of like seen like as this guy who would be on TV in the movies, and just like he had that cachet
You've
from Pride and from pro wrestling also. So just my take on it, short truncated take.
I think you've talked me into a maybe, but not this year for Takayama.
Yeah.
You talked me through it. It's fair. I've read this case where like the draw, there is he was brought out as a draw. He was like he was a figure who was important and grew and did that. Speaking of important figures, next candidate is Tiger Deet Singh, who got 27. That's the highest total. I'm gonna need to couch this. It's really important. So it's 3 legs. Tiger Deet Singh would be the worst worker in the hall, by far. I understand that. I get it. He would be the worst. He would be the worst worker. I've seen his matches. I've submitted myself to that pain. It's clear. Here's the thing. He's also the number one rival for one of the biggest draws in the history of Japan. He also drew across 2 decades. He was big everywhere he went. He also was cool and the archetype of the foreign invading heel. So given that, like, even though he's the worst worker in the hall, to me, he's high enough in the other 2 categories that I would be a yes on Tiger Deet Singh. I think he needs to be in. He's an important figure. He's an important character in wrestling, and I mean the drawing bona fides and kind of like the presentation is like off the hook. It's a little bit modern wrestling reminds me of that. I joke about this with like Taya Valkyrie is like that. We're like not obviously not at the level, but Taya Valkyrie is very good outside the ring. She's very good at like the talking and the stuff. Terrible in ring, just horrible in ring, right? He is the archetype of that, but like obviously like and much. And here's the thing, like the thing about this is like I remember the angle with him attacking Inoki his wife is an angle that's been replayed so many times. Like there's an angle like that in Puerto Rico with like Ayala attacking Carlos Colon and his wife, right? At an awards presentation. Carlos Colon is wearing this white suit. You can find it if you go online. He's wearing this white suit, and like Ayala breaks this like crystal award on top of Carlos's head, and Carlos just bleeds buckets, and his wife is crying. But it's the kind of thing, and like again, you look at him coming in and like drawing with Onita in like just 20 years later, and I can't in good faith vote against him. If numbers matter, right, then I have to say yes. And also again, I think that archetype, right, he created it, and he was like he is the avatar of it. Obviously, other people have done, like, I mean, hell, Shiki was doing a little bit of that, right? We talked about it in Sheik earlier, and other people have done that too. But it's kind of like, again, I understand he would be the worst worker, and people hate voting for him for that. But I have to consider the other 2 and say that's enough for me to pull the trigger on Tiger Deet Singh, and I'll concede the floor.
You make a compelling argument, and there's absolutely a case for Tiger Deet Singh. I don't know. Like,
How important is Tiger Jeet Singh to early to Inoki, to those promotions in Japan in the 70s, right?
yeah, he's really important for Inoki, like for New Japan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
he's
think
important for other promotions. Come, I said, go ahead.
he also jumped to All Japan with Abby, and they brought that tag team over. They also did that tag
Yeah.
team in Puerto Rico too, which you probably got
Well, no,
tantalized by.
the
Like they
Legends of
didn't.
Wrestling game. I think he's in the Legends of Wrestling game. That
Yeah.
SNES game. It's him and him and Abby, and I forget. It's like him and Abby and Ric Flair, and I forget who else is I think Hogan, and yeah, I mean because those were the big
Yeah.
stars when they were picking and making archetypes. The Japanese guys said they based it on one count on Abby, Flair, Hogan, and
Yeah.
Tiger Jeet Singh, right? And Inoki. That's the guys I remember. I think I'm forgetting Mil Mascars is the other one. Mil is the other one.
Yeah.
As characters in that game.
From Mill comes Tiger.
I can never figure out. There was one character nobody could ever figure out. And I was like, no, hey, I just realized it's Abby, because I was like, the game comes out in '85, and I'm like 85, '86, and I'm like, who's big in all Japan? In Japan, it's Abby and Tiger Jeet Singh. Oh, it has to be Abby and Tiger Jeet Singh.
Yeah, because we're talking about
That's the
NES.
most over.
Yeah, we're talking the NES wrestling game, ladies and gentlemen, where they had pretty much the stars of the day, but a little bit changed. I do want to say this about Tiger Jeet Singh. He he is one of the guys.
Yeah,
you're talking.
by the way, the six wrestlers in the NES Pro Wrestling game are Fighter Hayabusa, who's Inoki, Starman, who's Mill, King Corn Karn, who is Tiger Jeet Singh, Giant Panther, who is a combination of Giant Panther's probably Hogan, the Amazon is
Hogan and Brody.
Abby, and King's and King Slender is Flair. Maybe Flair, maybe a little bit of what's his name? I can't believe I'm blanking on the AWA guy.
Bockwinkel?
Bockwinkel. Yeah, little Bockwinkel too.
Yeah.
That's kind of
because speaking to your point on that, we see an anime, right? So in Kinnikuman, they had all those guys in there. If you made it into Kinnikuman, you were a big star at the time, because there's a Hulk Hogan guy in there. There's a Brody. There's a Dusty Rhodes. There's a Ric Flair in Kinnikuman, and the images of Tiger Jeet Singh with that rapier in his mouth, and you can see it right now in your head, right? The sword in his mouth.
The sword. He's coming out with sword. Yeah, and music. I mean, as I said, it is an iconic. It is. I talked about before about the memes of wrestling, the languages, the archetypes, and Tiger Jeet Singh is an important archetype and a common language. That foreign embedded heel, that evil kind of outsider, and it's an important money drawing one. And he is a big giant star through one of the most important periods of wrestling. So that's why I'm yeah. I get everybody's reservations on him. I'm gonna be a yes on it, right? And I knew it, and I understand the reservations, and I'm trying to make them clear, right?
Yeah.
Doc, are you a no or a maybe? No, you're a no.
I already used up my votes.
You have no more.
You're
done. JML. You can save it to later. We still got 4 acts to go.
Yeah, I'll save it. Yeah.
So Mako Satomura.
Because I'm already regretting voting Takayama. Because, all right, yeah.
You're allowed to change your vote. You're allowed to change your vote. That is fine. I get it. Mako Satomura. I'm a no on. I respect Mako. I think she's had a great career. I would be a no for her right now. Right. And I understand her influence, and I understand that. But again, I think the problem with her a little bit is she's kind of this figure in the down period, right? Which to me, it is essentially a category that's already very well represented, right? Could I talk myself into her longer term? Maybe. I think if somebody does a deep dive on it, I could. Again, I think she's I believe she's the last. Is she the last All Japan women's trainee? I know her. I've seen her. Mako's the other one, right? I think her and Mako are the or no, not Mako. Emi. I know Emi. I've seen Emi working some of those Like she's like one of the last projects, but again, like the problem is she's in the period where like the everything's kind of falling apart, and so
Yeah, I don't. Well, the thing is with Mako, I think the story was she was going to go to All Japan Women, but went with Guy instead.
oh,
So
the guy, that's right, guy, you're right. My apologies on Mako.
and with Emmy, with Emmy Soccer, she started. I think she started with maybe it was FMW. Like she started training either FMW or Wing. I forgot, but like by the end of the '90s, she was still technically a freelancer, but she was basically All Japan Women's roster.
Yeah, she was working. She was working. So yeah, Mako was working Gaia until it closed, essentially,
Hmm.
and then she started her own thing. Which I mean, I think here's the thing. I think you can make an argument with it. Like, the argument with her is like her starting her own thing and kind of like keeping the ball and the flame rolling and her training. But I do think I need more meat on the bone or more written meat on the bone before I would be consider her. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because she
Like,
has
somebody.
Senjo, but like, um, she has Senjo. I mean, WWE used to send the girls out there to train at Sendai girls. They sent Bailey and Mercedes out there, but like, it's hard to like say what her influence is. Her matches are great. Her matches over the last like 15 years have been some of the best matches I've seen. But it's just like,
Yeah, I mean, I think here's the thing. Like when we're talking Hall of Fame, it's not enough to be. Again, let's compare her, Mako or Mochi.
Uh, well,
Mako or Io.
it's hard. That's the thing. It's like if you for a good amount of time, I used to think if Mako's one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. Um, but it's weird because now as time goes on, other cases have been people's cases have gotten stronger while her case has gotten weaker. So that's my whole thing with Mako. Now I would say no.
No,
Like,
and I mentioned somebody who's never been on the ballot, Mako or Combat Toyota.
oh, I go with Mako. I go with Mako. Honestly,
I probably go Combat because I do think her working in that environment is really important, right? But again, I'm a little bit like, but I guess the thing, I get the case for Mako. I understand it. Somebody please make it, right? That's what I say. Like I asked for this a couple times. Like I think there's a story to be written and like work on it, and I hope she stays on the ballot so we can like go dig into that story. She might be. I mean, I don't think she's gonna fall off, but she might be kind of in trouble down the line. Going next to Inoki and Seiji Sakaguchi. I mean, this feels like a little bit like the Bulldogs, like trying to get Sakaguchi in. I'm a no. I don't see it. I don't. I mean, I don't see. Nobody's written this case. I don't see him as necessarily like this big drawing act. Like I don't think the act is the draw ever. Right. That's my feel on it. Like if it's like we'll see another case like this with like Eel Santos. Like the act isn't the draw. Right. It's like you're putting two guys together and. No, like if you want Sakaguchi and put him in but I don't see it as a kind of long-term influential act that you put on top. Like there's not enough there. Like I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but there's not enough when I've looked to justify it to me. Doc.
the act is a good act, but he has a stronger case by himself than in a tag team. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Yeah, let's have a conversation around Sakaguchi as opposed to having a conversation around this. Is kind of very limiting, and it's so limiting that I'm going like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Cozy. Anybody for Ted Cozy?
I do want to say this about Sakaguchi first before we move on. Seek out his match with Chuck Norris on YouTube.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't done that. I'm gonna do that. That sounds good. Anybody on Ted Cozy?
Now,
I have to. I know what Dave was doing with putting them together on the ballot because they were a really good tag team. But I'm going to side with Fred Moore. And Fred Moore did a good, great article on Voices of Wrestling that these guys need to be separated as different candidates. I think
Yes, I agree with that.
Kojima,
100% agree with that.
They're worse.
I think
They're way
Kojima
stronger as.
himself is a
Yeah.
Yeah, Kojima is a guy who I would love to have the ability. Like yeah, Satoshi Kojima is it's really an interesting case to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with breaking them up and putting them in as individuals. I would think that would be
Yeah.
a stronger case.
They're
Okay, the
stronger like
current New Japan.
separated. Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to waste too much time on Cozy because, like, God, they've been on the ballot. It feels like they've been on the ballot like as long as Edge. Like, yeah, 12 years, just
Yeah.
almost as
Yeah.
long as Edge. Like when you've been on the Hall of Fame ballot almost as long as Edge, you've been on there too long. Okay, so Zack Sabre Jr. Some people are like talking him up as like, oh, he's the strongest candidate on the Japanese ballot. Here's the thing. So Zack is a good technical wrestler. He's gotten better as he's gone with time. I didn't get his style like a few years ago. I've gotten more into it. But this is important. It's not an influential style. People aren't copying his style. It's not being done everywhere. I can see other people, like, it's not something that's taking over the world. He's not drawing. He failed as a draw on top. Technical work. He's a no for me. Like, he's fine. He's nice. I was the guy advocating for Zack to get his New Japan World Title run, and then kind of like, and I don't think the failure of this run is solely on him. I would put it on the booker, and kind of like just New Japan booked like a mess, and he's done okay given what he's given, but like he's not shown me anything that would say Hall of Famer. He's fine. Some guys just don't belong to the Hall of Fame. People are gonna argue, oh, like, people who have a stronger opinion than me of British wrestling will argue for Zack, and I'm going to go like, ultimately, British wrestling is overrepresented in the Hall. And if your argument is that he's the representative of British wrestling, that's not enough for me, because I don't think it's a style that's influential. It's not a territory that's successful, really. They're not like, they don't have a thriving scene. It's a dead scene after WWE kind of killed it. And so, like, I would rather have a conversation around, like, say, Bill Dundee, like from Memphis, who's an underrepresented territory, or some of the rest of the world territories. And again, this is not saying that Zack is a bad wrestler. Zack is a really good wrestler, but it's a very one-legged case, and it's a one-legged case for a style that I think is already overrepresented in the Hall. So I'm a no. It's an easy no for me.
With Zack, I'm a fan of him, but I have to see more meat on the bones. I think he's just starting. Personally, I think he's just starting to become a major league main event wrestler. So, and we'll see what happens if he drops the belt to cash it out. If not, but yeah, I still have to. It's still a wait and see for me if I had a ballot.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see his. I want to see this run. I want to see if it. And he hasn't done anything in this run to make me think that, like, okay, And also, what do we think about the Shota? And like, I don't think it's on him, but that's still on his resume. The Shota main, like the Shota Wrestle Kingdom main, is arguably the worst Wrestle Kingdom main ever. Like, okay, what am I to make with that, right? And kind of.
But I me personally, I kind of put that on Shota just because Zack goes out the next night and has a great match with Ricochet. So I mean, like, do what you will with that.
Yeah, but it is kind of funny that like that whole weekend kind of makes the case a little bit more for Kenny, because Kenny's the one who's coming in and saving the next. Although again, Zack did have a great match the next night, but effectively he hasn't been put in a position to succeed, and I can't judge him on a what if, right? I have to go look at the matches as they happen and go like, no, he hasn't shown me enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
well,
I
use my
need
vote, so no.
somebody. Oh, place your note. So I need a extra vote from you. You owe me a vote. Like JML. Like you've got Takayama and you've got Toyota and Yamada.
Hayabusa.
Hayabusa. That makes sense. And you're sticking with Takayama.
Yeah, it was either Takayama or Takajit Singh. I'll stick with Takayama because he's a worker, just better. Yeah.
I respect it. Here's the thing. I respect it, and I saw the arguments, and I could be like, it's just, to me, Tiger is just so historically significant Like,
Yeah,
as
I
said,
totally agree.
Like I think everyone else in that video game, in the no joke, everyone else in the NES Pro Wrestling game is in the Hall. Actually, no, either it depends on who I think Great Panther is, but I think everyone else in that game, or like who was a character based on that game, is in the Hall, right? And yeah, I mean, I understand that he was like really important, and yes, he's a really basic wrestler, but sometimes other things matter. Okay.
Mitko, Mitko. Some more, listen. Some more, listen.
Tataima. To those who don't know, that means welcome back. And we had just discussed the Japan ballot section for the Wrestling Observer News Hall of Fame. And numbers, do you mind like telling us who we voted for again?
So I'm going to summarize. We all like Hayabusa, right? I think that we all
Yeah.
kind of agree that he's between influence and kind of style, and kind of sometimes you just go like he's so kawaii, right? So he's so cool. So yeah, it's like sometimes you just go like that, and I think he's kind of a slime. Like I think he's gonna get in. He's one of the safer ones, I think, to get in this year. But like we'll see, because like things can happen. Doc was into Mochi. I like Mochi a lot. I don't know that I kept kind of hoping somebody makes the case for him. But I don't think it's quite there yet. But I do think he should stick on the ballot. JML made a really good case for Toyota and Yamada, which I respect. And again, I think they're a worthy candidate. I'm just not pulling the trigger for them this year. I went with Fujiwara. Similar reasons. I mean, I think that like between his style, I mean, obviously there's some business issues around it, but I think like style-wise, and as I dig more into some of the stuff, there's a lot of people like some really great wrestlers have aped him, and he's just kind of like that style. I really like it. It's different, and he's very influential and interesting. And he's the guy who should be in. Doc and JML both like Takayama, and actually I think they swayed me to a maybe on him, because of the fact that he's got it isn't just that memorable fight with Fry, but also the fact that he kept being brought back to kind of like help with the business. So he was kind of a successful act in an era where like a lot of people really weren't, right? So he's like Japan wasn't in a really good place when he was around. He was still kind of a guy who was coming in and kind of helping them against like the Pride MMA stuff.
Yeah.
And I went with Tiger Jeet Singh as my last vote, and as I explained to Doc just before, he's the only guy on the NES video wrestling video game who isn't in the Hall. All the others are. But really, kind of like he's such an influential kind of all the stuff, all the angles he did, all the famous angles, like drew shit tons of money. Obviously, he's like he's like Inoki's main rival, or like his heel rival. And then all these acts, like all these things that he did, got redone elsewhere. He was still drawing money in the '90s, and kind of a lot of the tropes that are like part of wrestling come from him, right? And I feel like it has to be recognized, right? I'm aware that he would be the worst worker in the Hall, right? But sometimes, like I think it's a very two-legged. He's got the other two pillars that we need, where the work is like negative, but it doesn't matter because everything else on the other side is just so great that I think you kind of have to have him. And that's me. That's a summary.
Yeah.
I definitely agree in terms of Tiger Jeet Singh. I mean, of the two other categories, I mean, as a work, he's not the best at all. Far from it, but yeah, that's the thing. Me going back and forth in terms of if I had a ballot, picking that third, I just picked Takayama just because he was much more well-rounded, even though he's not even close to the draw as Tiger Jeet Singh.
I mean, no, but I mean, I think the point you guys made about like him being like, and it's something like I'd heard mentioned before, where he is a figure that like he's a successful act, right? It's not like promoters are kind of like trying to bring him in, right?
Yeah.
So like that has to count for something, and I think that like it's is it enough? Well, I mean, I would. We've had a long discussion. I think it's like the famous case is the article about like him not he very good but not a Hall of Famer. But I think maybe it's one of these things where we can re-examine it. I do think, and I've mentioned this elsewhere, and I think I didn't mention it during the round, but I'll mention it now. I think Japan is getting to the point where like whereas we were talking about Mexico, where like the 6th or 7th guy is insanely good. Japan's getting to the place where like not so much. Like I mean like I could see myself in Japan, like not even like using my full ballot. And actually, fun thing to mention is like I looked at your data journal. Like, did you know that like Mexico's the region that everyone who votes always votes like with every vote, right? Because they're like because you can easily find 3. Whereas here, I mean, I could. I mean, I'm picking 3, but like if some of this changes like by next year, I could see myself just going like, okay, just 2. If I had a ballot, right? I was just like, pass. I'll mention that we said that Seiji probably should be on by himself, and I think like the region is.
He's probably a better
not
candidate by himself.
Well, no, not only that, but he's not going to fall off the ballot. If you put him in by himself, he's not going to fall off the ballot, right? He doesn't need Inoki, and Inoki isn't really helping him here, because if you just put him by himself, then you can count the work with Inoki and count the rest of his career, and there's a lot of. I mean, he's kind of a pioneering figure. He's like an important figure, so I think he'd probably be better off as something where you can like look at him holistically, right? This isn't some of these other categories, like the tag team does help. Here, I don't think it's helping him at all.
No, I do want to say this about Mochizuki, because I think about like how Ishii got in, and like it's the same thing for me. Where I think for me, Mochizuki is 30 years of excellent work to this day. Watch that Ryoya match from earlier this year. It's a fantastic match.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, Doc. Would you, if they were in the same category, would you vote for Bolador or would you vote for Mochi?
Bolador. Easy.
That's
Bolador.
The thing is, the same case that Mochi has, like Bolador has, but Bolador has it like where like. Yeah. Obviously, one of the best workers. Like he is obviously one of the best workers in the world. Like Mochi like has an argument, but it isn't quite at the level of Bolador, and he doesn't have the training argument that like Bolador has, or the style and influence argument he does. And someone needs to make it, right? But I mean, like it's maybe not fair to compare regions to regions. But this is where I'm like, where I go with Mochi. I'm like, I love Mochi. I love watching him, but I'm like, you're not quite there.
Because like,
right? That's my thing.
Yeah, and then like because Mexico came out before this, so I'm spoiler alert. If you guys listen to this and don't listen to these in order, I don't know why you would not listen to them in order. But so we all voted for Gran Hamada, right? I believe we all did.
Yeah.
So Gran Hamada could have either got in it on Japan bracket, in the Mexico bracket, and then also, sadly this year he gets the death push.
I would say on the. Actually, that's a good point. Would you consider Gran Hamada where would you rate Gran Hamada in Japan? If he was on the ballot in Japan?
It's a little lower because he doesn't have the drawing level in Mexico that he has in Japan. Because basically, when he was in Mexico, he was like on the level of Pero Aguayo, of Negro Casas. He was like that level of over.
He was working with a connect level, or like slightly low. Yeah. So no.
You can't like, and then like when he goes to Japan, he builds like the scene of like all those different lucha federations there, and like it's because the guys like Sasuke, Hayabusa, Jarogero, Liger, Tiger Mask, they all go to Super Delphin. They all go to Mexico to learn. Because New Japan rejected them. Ultimo Dragon 2, they all go to Mexico to learn.
I think if Hamada was in Japan, I would probably treat him as number 1 in Japan. Right? It would be my priority in Japan. If I had a ballot and Yamato was in Japan, he would be my priority in Japan this year. And it isn't against Hayabusa. It'd probably be him and Hayabusa, and then pick a third. But it probably Tiger G. I hate it, but but yeah, I mean that's why I kind of like it's an interesting kind of exercise. It's a different the bar is different. I think in both at this point, right?
Yeah.
Ishii got in a few years back, and I've softened on the Ishii induction, but Ishii would never get in Mexico,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Right? He just wouldn't. It never happen. It's only in Japan would he get in, right? It's nothing against him, but no.
And again, like what we said, like at the top of on the first show, like everybody that's on this list deserves to be on the list. They deserve to be considered, right?
Yeah.
My friend, friend Grant.
Wait. Are we talking? We're talking about Japan, right?
Yeah, they at least deserve to be discussed. And
Okay.
yeah, because my friend catch him on Grant Voices of Wrestling, the website Grant. You if you see him on Discord, he's Heavenly Halberd. He's been on the show before. He is writing an article that's about his making a case for Zack Sabre Jr. So please check that out when it comes out, or hopefully it's out before this comes out. And thank you for the plug. I just want to say, yeah, no matter I know that I kind of downplayed Zack Sabre Jr., but he does have two dull main events as not attended as they are, but I respect him. All right, you don't win the IWGP champion just because they throw it on you. Meiko Satomura has a long career. I saw her for the first time in WCW when I was a little kid, and I had a little kid crush on her. So I just want to say everybody here deserves to be here.
I think with Zach, and again, I think he's worthy to be on the ballot. I wouldn't. I think the thing with Zach is such an interesting case where he kind of there's a very narrow we're in a narrow window where I think this is probably the low end in terms of what he could have achieved through now for his career, right?
Yeah.
Because he could have wound up in WWE. He could have wound up at he could have been pushed earlier. There's he could have had people to work with as opposed to the Ray was, or he could have had a booker that wasn't as checked out as Gato. So there's a lot of things that have gone against him. I think that he probably has a better outcome, but I can't judge you on what ifs, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is, and so to me, it's nice, but I'd have a hard time making a case for him, influence wise, drawing wise. Technical, yes, but I mean, even that, even the technical is kind of lower to me because I think that it's a dead end style somewhat, right?
Yeah.
Where people don't really kind of work that style often and to a popular level. It's nice. The grapple stuff, but that grapple stuff isn't really something that is drawing or successful. If this isn't where I point somebody he's had the famous match with Hechicero, but the Java stuff, which is a slight it's a obviously lucha variation of that. The Java stuff is a lot more successful in terms of drawing and forcing a successful territory. Where the catch grapple is, it's kind of an artifact, right? And it's not something that's necessarily popular style, which doesn't mean it's bad. It's just if I'm talking about the Hall of Fame, I have to go well, is it? Part of this is fame, right? So fame implies that it becomes popular, right?
Yeah, because
we
talk about
because
we talk about Fujiwara, right? That kind of grappling, and we're 30 years on from the Muto versus Takada match, and if you watch those two matches, they're spoiler alert. There's the first match where Takada wins the belt, and then the second match when Muto wins the belt back, and they work. A really grapple heavy style, but it looks more, I guess, real, more stiff, more hard, more playing into the Japanese palette, as opposed to how Mr. Zack Sabre Jr. works. And I just want to say styles make fights, and we have so many different styles of wrestlers on here, and that just shows to me between the Joshi, between like the big
It's a
heavyweights.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating what if to me if he sticks around.
Yeah, because like there's so much variety in the style of wrestling. Because when we think of like Japanese pro wrestling, there really isn't one true style. It, like to quote,
What ifs in terms of like,
yeah, to quote like my
like
friends at Pancrase, it's a hybrid wrestling. So like everything nowadays is all sort of mixed up together. So like when we
right.
see guys who work like that singular style, like a Zack Saber, like a Yoshiaki Fujiwara, like a Nobuhiko Takada, like it kind of stands out, but you have to be great at that one style in order to stand out. And I
Yeah, I
want
mean,
to.
like again, what I want is the Danielson thing where like it's undeniable, right? And I think like and as I said, like I don't think he's quite gotten there, right? And I
Yeah,
wished it for him because I was so into him when he had that series of matches with Danielson. That year was like he's really great technical year where he's kind of putting it all together, and it doesn't mean that he was bad before, but he was putting together like working with all these people and figuring out how to work with all these styles and at a very elite level. And I think he's been hurt by the fact that he's working with effectively guys that the office treats like jobbers, right?
yeah,
And so it makes everything he's doing less impactful and less serious. And so, and again, that's not on him, but it hasn't helped his Dorian case and it hasn't helped the quality of his matches. He did have, yeah, he has two domains, but one of them is arguably the worst domain in how long. And it's not on him, right?
yeah,
It's on the booking of Shota, where like the booking of the guy next to him is completely back asswards, and like they just refuse to kind of move on from it, and it just, you know, ah. And again, like as I said, like Zach to me is a what if candidate, right?
yeah,
And at this point, that's not enough to pull the trigger for me.
yeah. Who knows where we'll be with him like in 5 years? Who knows? Because
Yeah.
he's like only 36. So
Yeah.
again, like I want to thank both of you for coming on here. JML, since I don't want to mess it up again, go ahead and like plug your socials, man.
Socials is for X and Blue Sky. It is WHONHOF Tracker. Again, it's WONHOF Tracker. If you go to X, if you use that handle, it'll go straight to it. For Blue Sky, you use that handle plus the Blue Sky social for that. And also, if you want us to expand to the Facebook Meta world, if you're a Facebook user, hit us up and let us know, and we'll create an account and do it over there.
That's great, man. And you can find American Numbers at American Numbers on X. It's World Series time. It's football season and it's basketball season. And if you need the credits, I know I sound like like I'm on a DraftKings ad, but I'm not. Maybe you should check his models out. Go ahead, Numbers.
I'll put some stuff up. I'll put some stuff up for the NCAA basketball too, and props and all sorts of fun things. And tournaments coming up, like World Cup is next year. We'll have some stuff up for that. Like always, I'm trying to like help people kind of make informed decisions. Is the way I kind of put it.
Yeah,
Have Excel, will travel.
that's great, man. So again, thank you for joining us on this portion of the Wrestling Observer newsletter Hall of Fame 2025 ballots. And all I can say is sayonara, or as Mr. Sanada would say, see you next time.
私